Right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session on the Department for International Trade, or DIT as we're more commonly known, I think. Sure, a lot of you have heard of us, or in fact, maybe a lot of you have used our services in the past. But how many of you actually really know what we do for a living, how we can help businesses in the UK? We don't receive a huge amount of publicity as much as a lot of other government departments. However, this day and age, that's probably a good thing rather than a bad thing. I'm going to start off with exactly who and what is the Department of Trade. What do we do? How do we manage businesses, or how do we work with businesses? There's a headline that we use, a strapline, which is the department secures UK and global prosperity by promoting and financing international trade investment and championing free trade. But what does that actually mean? Right. Well, it actually covers almost everything that you could want as far as international trade is concerned, as far as selling overseas is concerned, whether it's helping exporters with advice, guidance, matchmaking, introducing potential partners, whether that's franchise operators or distributors. That's part of the service that we do. We actually, at last count, operate in 108 different countries apart from the UK. We have 177 different locations, which are mostly based in embassies, high commissions, overseas British government offices across the world. And these are actually not our offices, they're your offices. They're available for you to be able to use as and when you want with the services that we've got. So, on a high level, what does the Department for International Trade do? Well, first of all, we negotiate free trade agreements. Well, the word free isn't necessarily the best word to use. They're trade agreements, okay? What a lot of people didn't seem to realize is that when we left the EU, every single trade agreement that we'd negotiate over the previous 30 years actually ceased to be relevant. We were outside of the EU, so we actually had to renegotiate all of these trade agreements on behalf of British businesses to make sure they still have the same access to overseas markets as we've always had. Some of them, this was actually very easy. It's just a matter of taking the agreement, crossing out the word EU and putting the word UK in there. Some of them have proved a little bit more difficult. But to date, we've got about 65 free trade agreements across the world already negotiated, already signed, already completed. The word free, as I mentioned before, isn't necessarily the best word to use. Free trade doesn't mean anything you want to sell anywhere goes in duty-free. There are still restrictions on certain things, but if, providing your product is made in the UK, you can take advantage of these agreements. We, as an organisation, can certainly help you decipher what classifies as British products. Because again, in this day and age where a lot of products are made from components from all over the world, what actually counts as British? We can help you on that. We can guide you. We can advise you how to take advantage of these things. Sorry, just checking that I haven't actually missed anything for you there. But that's the high level of what we do. We also look where there's trade barriers in the world that are not covered by free trade agreements. Trade barriers could be any minor little thing that when they negotiate the agreement, they didn't think of. There's often these come up where a country changes its rules, changes its regulations, and suddenly there's a restriction on getting products in there. All you need to do when you come across something like that is discuss it with us. We can bring it up. If it's something which is important to a lot of businesses, we can bring it up with the relevant government. So we can talk to the government and try and resolve those issues on your behalf. Right? So that's the high level. At a lower level, or at the mass market level where most companies in the UK sit, we support businesses then to take advantage of these free trade agreements. How do we actually do that? I'm going to ask the team that and get various different discussions going across the team. But we've got a good team on the panel today to be able to discuss that with you. I've got two people here from the UK. They're international trade advisors, which are our first point of contact with businesses in the UK. Right? We've got three as well people from overseas offices of the UK. Two from the Euro Hub, which is based actually in Prague. We'll explain later on what the Euro Hub means. One from our office in the Netherlands. So I'll start with Lucy Haine. Lucy is a very old friend of mine. I've known her for many, many years. Lucy's got a lot of experience in retail. She spent 20 years in international sales and marketing with some of the major UK retail operations. That includes Monsoon, M&S, River Island, Debenhams. Now she's using that expertise and that experience on behalf of the government to work with other businesses to help them emulate the success of those large corporates. We have Vincenzo Gallone from DIT Midlands. Vincenzo's got over 25 years working in the FMCG sector, 16 years of which were in international sales. Gained extensive knowledge of and insight across many sectors within the FMCG categories. As well as possessing good knowledge of the mass market sector, Vincenzo also has specialist knowledge regarding natural and organic non-food sectors, and in particular the beauty and hair care sector. Then from our overseas offices, we have Erica Boyce, right? Yes. Sitting next to me here. Erica Boyce is from DIT Netherlands. So Erica is typical of the personnel that we have in the embassies overseas. She's a business development officer for export growth. She's worked closely with the European Trade Hub to provide export services to UK companies anywhere, basically the other side of the North Sea. She focuses on consumer and retail sector mostly, but also offers support across many other industries in the Netherlands. Now we've got Katharine Hadzich and Nikola Vyborna, both who come from Prague, where we base the DIT European Trade Hub. The Trade Hub looks after 30 countries all the way across Europe. Katharine's got over 4 years in previous experience in the commercial sector before joining DIT, working with companies such as Unibail, Rodamco, Westfield as a commercial partnerships manager, and a research analyst with various think tanks in Europe. Right, Nikola, prior to joining the British Embassy in Prague, she spent some time working for the British Chamber of Commerce, where she also worked on commercial inquiries from UK exporters. So, we're going to start now with the actual discussion. The most basic question that you can think of in the first place is, well, why export in the first place? Why not just concentrate on the UK market? I'm going to throw this one across to Lucy Haine. See what you have to say.
Thank you, Neill. So, I think the main reason, as we all know, is opportunity. We've got 70 million people in this country. If you export to the rest of the world, you're opening your product up to billions more. And really, I would touch on 4 reasons. So, diversify. Obviously, if your product is saturated in this market, you can then diversify and extend its reach and its lifetime to millions of other markets. It also gives you a competitive edge. If you export to other markets, you can also learn what customers want. You can localize in other markets and also diversify your product range. I think it's a massive opportunity for British made. For those brands that are made in the UK, obviously we can take advantage of those free trade agreements and also capitalize in markets where British made is very, very strong. And also it sort of de-risks your product and de-risks your business. Yes, it is more complex, but I think, the opportunity outweighs the complexity. And I think where products today are born global, the minute people get a website, they're exporting, and they've got the opportunity to export. So why not go for it?
Could you just tell me, how difficult is it in the modern world to be able to export? When we were members of the EU, all you needed was an invoice and just send the goods across Europe. It's got a tad more difficult than that nowadays. So are you finding this major problem to people, or should people just simply get used to the new systems?
I think it's about upskilling yourself, getting used to the new systems, and really, if you've got a great product, why restrict it to the UK? Let's get it out there.
Vincenzo, going to ask you now. You're based here in the Midlands. A lot of companies that are here at Autumn Fair are based here. So what do you actually do as an ITA, as an international trade advisor? What's the task that you have?
Fine. Just as speaking up for the Midlands, there are nearly 100 companies here exhibiting from the Midlands. What I do is I'm a specialist advisor for FMCG. I'm usually brought in by an ITA who will recommend me to an SME who is seeking help and advice to export, whether it's Europe or outside of Europe and elsewhere. So what I would do is I give category insight. After initial discussion, it's category insight, the route to market, what are the local trends and preferences for the particular market you're seeking to work in, helping you identify your competitors, and also talking about pricing as well, because a lot of businesses do overlook the where their brand positioning is within the UK, and then trying to not sort of working to rectify where they would place their brand internationally. Because if you don't do this, you could be underselling your product. So if you're trying to match, let's say you sell for £2.99, £4.99 in the UK, and you try to replicate that internationally, you're underselling your brand, and it's probably not positioned in where it should be. You work hard for your brand, you build your brand, and it's the most precious thing you have, and you should take care in where it's placed within a particular market. And some businesses will say, well, should I be charging more for my product than I'm charging my local distributor in the UK? Well, if you look at McDonald's, for example, you can buy a Big Mac and it will cost you differently depending on what country in the world you go to. Even IKEA do this. You buy a piece of furniture in the UK, it will be dearer elsewhere. It could even be cheaper depending on the market. So it's these kind of things that we try to shake out and guide businesses to make the right decisions at the very beginning, rather than making the wrong decisions and then having to rectify them further down the line.
Thanks, Vincenzo. I'm going to quickly bring Nikola and Katharine into this. You manage the EuroHub, which I mentioned earlier. Obviously, EuroHub is a new term as far as DIT is concerned. So do you want to tell us, I believe you've got a presentation you want to show us as far as the EuroHub is concerned, what it does, how it operates?
Absolutely. So to make things a bit simpler for you, we prepared a short presentation called the Export Support Service, that we're actually better known as the Europe Trade Hub. And we're going to kind of explain to you in simplistic terms how cool we actually are and that we're the gateway to UK companies accessing the European market. And as was rightly said, there are 30 plus markets. So a little bit of a background on us. Well, we're based in Prague, but what we do is that through our really good contacts through all the British embassies out through and DIT networks throughout Europe, we are first kind of like the stepping stone. And actually through our wonderful ITAs who are sitting here, we are on a kind of daily basis in contact with them. So if there's a UK company that is really interested in, for example, say Germany, France, the Balkans, Spain, then they will contact us saying, hey, we have a really cool company, can you help them access, for example, the German market? And we go, absolutely. So we kind of have we'll tell you what the steps are to access this, but needless to say, it's not as difficult as you may think it is to access the European market, with our help, of course. There is 5 of us that are based in Prague. A really strong team. We've helped we have now over 2,000 inquiries that we have helped. We have 72 success stories of 72 companies who have successfully exported into and counting into the European market. So really, our motto is, if there's a will, there's a way. Kind of the eligibility, we have an eligibility for UK companies, but it really will, if there's anyone, we have a threshold, it's kind of 500K, but really if you're a startup, if you need help, we are there for you. And the steps to take, like I mentioned, through your ITA, we will send you, once they contact us, we'll kind of send up an introduction meeting with you, with one of us personally. We'll go through the form that you filled out with your ITA, and we'll talk to you, and we will kind of we have like a tailor-made approach to your business. So if any industry, if it's agriculture, retail, really in technology, sustainability. We really work with all different companies, and we really provide a tailor-made approach to what you need to that particular market. Because as we know, every European market is a little bit different depending on who you're trying to access. So we are there to kind of answer your question specifically about your product. So it's really, we actually set up a Teams call with every single inquiry that comes our way. We talk to you face-to-face, well, virtually face-to-face. Ideally, it would be in person, but we do it virtually. And we have kind of like a half an hour call with your ITA, with the company, and we kind of discuss what your needs are, what you're looking for. And also, ideally, it doesn't have to be one market. We do 3 markets at a time. We can do more markets at a time. It really depends what your needs are, so we're very flexible in this sense. So if Nikola wants to say anything.
If I can also add on this one, it's all free of charge, just so you know. We're part of the government. So.
Exactly. Yeah, free service. It's really
Paid for by your taxes, even.
Exactly. I didn't want to mention that, but yeah. Exactly. So it's really free for all. We have a QR code. The QR code, if you want to take a picture of it, is the actual inquiry form that either you yourself can or your ITA will fill out for you, or can advise you to fill it out. It goes straight to us. We also. I'll get back to. We'll have an email at the end of the slide that you can contact us at. So it's a direct email to us. I'll get to that. But just as I mentioned, a few key numbers here. I forgot my glasses, so I'm going to look at this this slide here. We had 78 export wins actually, with a value of 93.7 million British pounds that we have successfully, along with our DIT, like my colleague Erica, Netherlands has helped. So actually on this stage here, you see the 3 processes. It's like first the ITA, then it's us, and then it's our colleagues in the DIT department that really connect you with what your needs are. So you can see the success cases are there. So, barriers, yes, there are some barriers, but we help you easily access the market with the advice of us. So there's a will, there's a way.
Can I just interject just for a second there?
Yeah.
We've got 78 export wins, as just mentioned there. Just to say, an export win is business that's actually been gained by a UK company with DIT's help. So, we measure our success on that basis of it. So the more export wins we have, the more successful we've been in our task and finding orders, effectively, clients for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for example, it's very nicely said. If a client is looking for distributors, say in the Netherlands, my colleague Erica, who's fabulous at this, will provide a list, for example, with potential distributors or potential clients or agents that we have worked with in the past, and that's how we have got to those export wins, because we're able to kind of really take you through that customer journey from point A to point Z. What you need, we will try to work with you, and you guys have been awesome in all the departments across Europe.
Yeah, and so. What is our biggest advantage, in my opinion, is that we have local trade advisors based at British embassies in over 30 European markets. They all can speak local languages. So I know it's sometimes difficult to, take those right contacts for you, which is something we can help you with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if someone's interested in trade shows, sponsorships, then we help with that as well. And for sure, language barrier is always sometimes an issue.
And also if you're facing any actually market access issues, any trade barriers, we can also report those. So please come to us to report those, so we can actually share with our people high up in the hierarchy those barriers, so they know what is going on.
Certainly, I think local language is quite an important thing, because anybody that's ever tried to sell overseas, trying to get past the receptionist when you're speaking English, and whether they're speaking Czech or Russian or whatever other language it happens to be at the other end, it's very useful to have somebody in market that actually carry out that initial conversation for you.
Absolutely, and on that note as well, we've been. With these barriers, the various barriers of all kinds, it's really our priority to make it the smoothest journey possible for the UK client to reach the EU market. So we even developed this overseas referral network, and it is a list of kind of verified clients or accounting services, law firms, HR service, anything that you can kind of think of to help you in those specific countries. Like maybe it could be Poland, for example, any market that that in the EU. So we have a list of these companies that we have worked with that we can connect you with personally, that we have been in contact with. So it's a really, really big plus. And just quickly, just to show you a few numbers as well. If we these are inquiries, of course, by countries by popularity, and of course, France, Spain, and Netherlands, and Germany have been a huge part. I can see that Germany is maybe missing from the.
Germany is supposed to be on the first.
On the first slide, yeah. I wonder why.
It's the most popular market for
yes.
UK exporters.
Germany's been cut off, but Germany has been not last but not least, but number one. It's been maybe it's a snipping issue, but Germany, France, Spain, Netherlands, of course, are top markets. So you can see by inquiry, but it's a huge list. Montenegro, Albania, Bosnia, Cyprus. So we have a really long, extensive list of countries that if you're interested in, we have contacts in those countries. And of course, sectors. Of course, we're at a retail event, so retail is huge. And we even have retail priority countries. So we have people and like the Netherlands, for example, who are like Erica, who are specific in really understanding the retail market. So we have, for example, Czech Republic, Poland, Slovenia, Italy, Spain, France, Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, and Sweden, we call them the retail priority sectors, who are really well connected in this area. So if you need help, we can help you in these sectors. And as you can see,
to emphasize as well that retail to us isn't just shops, it's anything which is sold through a retailer, through a shop.
Exactly. So like I mentioned, this is our general email. This goes to our team of 5 people in Prague. It's called europetradehub@fcdo.gov.uk. So if you want to email us any inquiry that you have, anything, say hello, let us know. We'll say hello back and let you, we will help you with any inquiry that you have. I'll leave it there for a little while if you have any questions.
And one last little short note, we're very proud to say that most companies that we assist come from West Midlands. So we're the right place to be today.
Yes. Good point.
Thank you very much, guys. Okay, I'm going to bring Erica into the conversation now. Erica, because you lead the retail and consumer team in the Netherlands, which is, as we just saw there, a very important market for us. You're responsible for our sector, for anything that happens within that market. So how... We've heard a little bit about the Euro Hub, we've heard a little bit about ITAs. So how does an individual commercial officer in a post work? How do you operate that?
Yes, so at post, of course, it varies depending on the country you go to across Europe. But the end result is usually the same. We want to help you enter the market, and we are boots on the ground, so to say. So we usually facilitate introductions to helpful partners in market. We give kind of insightful market information as well that you wouldn't usually be able to find online because we're kind of wading through the waters there. And also we host events. We facilitate market exposure for you as well. So for example, earlier this year, we did a pop-up shop in the Netherlands for small and medium-sized companies and who were sustainably focused. And we introduced them to the Dutch market, give them a chance to see, will it do well there? What are the prices of their competitors like? We invited our Dutch stakeholders to come by and see the products. Is this something that they would like to introduce into their own catalogs? And for some people, it really worked well in that we got some export wins out of that. So we have companies that are now selling in supermarkets in the Netherlands and other small niche shops as well. And then there's other companies who got really valuable market information in that, okay, we need to go back to the drawing board a little bit and rework how we call our product or how we market this product because it's a different market. So we have to make some changes in order for it to do well. So it's a nice kind of testing ground. We can facilitate that. Or if you want to find a new partner, as mentioned before, we can also facilitate those introductions. And even external partners, like my colleague just mentioned, if you want a tax advisor, an accountant, you want to figure out where do I start when I need to warehouse. I want to go into the Benelux area. Who do I talk to? We can also point you in the right direction and give you some advice on where to start. Because it can seem like a really daunting task, but good planning, good connections, it's possible.
Okay, well, while we're on the subject of Europe then, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the UK's departure from the EU, as Brexit as it's used to be known. It's blamed for an awful lot of things. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, I don't export anymore because it's too difficult, it's too hard now. It used to be very easy to. Is it really that difficult? Or is it just a matter of getting used to new systems, new paperwork, or whatever? What do you feel? I'll throw that up to all of our 3 European colleagues.
Yeah, can we begin? And I think Lucy said this really nicely as well. I think it's, it's when you have the right people and the right tools, it just kind of gets getting used to a bit. But I think that's what we are here for. We're kind of here to kind of clear the woods for you a little bit. There's a lot of trees that are in the way. It looks kind of dark, but when you have the right people to shine the light for you, then it makes it much easier. And especially on the European market, for example. Primark just opened recently in Prague, and it's been extremely successful. So, the opportunity for UK companies to extend their horizons, their clientele in these markets is huge. And of course, the UK brand, as you said as well, it's strong. It's very valuable, and it means something on the European market. So, from our experience in the Trade Hub, it's when we are in contact with clients in say Eastern Europe or Germany or France, they're like, wow, let's talk to these UK companies because they're very sincerely interested. It holds still a very, very strong name, regardless. Yeah.
Excellent. I must admit, I was looking at some trade figures quite recently, and although when we first left the EU, 18 months ago now, our exports to the EU literally crashed over the next 3 months or so. But looking statistically now, we're almost back up to the same levels that we were before. Now, how do the Europeans genuinely think about that? How do they feel the same way that we do, that there's additional barriers, or have they got past that now?
I'll come in there. So I usually speak to companies on both sides, and I have to say, within the last year, I ask always, what has your experience been post-Brexit? And they said, in the beginning, it was a bit difficult. I was a bit worried that it would be very complicated, but it really was just familiarizing yourself with the proper processes, the correct paperwork, certification. What do you need to do in order to make it? And when you do what you need to do, then it happens. And I think that that speaks volumes in the statistics. You can see that it's returned back to what it was pre-COVID, at least. And it's growing also. I can speak for the Netherlands for sure. We see retail is on the upward trajectory right now, and we're quite happy with that. And more people are coming. So I think that it's really just familiarizing yourself with what's coming.
Mm-hmm. On the other hand, also everything is getting more expensive, so it's important to keep in mind that trade numbers also increase in value.
Yeah, it's also true.
Okay, that covers a little bit about Europe, but what about the rest of the world? Before we left the EU, it was obviously much easier to sell to the EU, to sell to European countries. But America is one of our biggest export markets globally. Now Europe just simply is on the same kind of standards as far as documentation is concerned as the USA. But the USA is probably exactly the same as it was pre-Brexit. A lot of the other markets in the world are exactly the same as they were pre-Brexit, although I must have been in my local wine bar, they blamed the price of Argentinian wine going up on Brexit. How they worked that out, I'm not quite sure. But so, what about the other countries? What about, exporting to non-European countries? As I said, we have 65 free trade agreements across the world, whether they're Mexico, Japan, the latest one we've just done is Australia and New Zealand. Vincenzo, how do you feel about this?
The free trade agreements obviously help to get us into countries a lot more smoothly. But from my own experience from working in international sales, working outside the EU has not changed, as you've already alluded to, and it was never a great problem. I worked in hair care and skin care years ago, and providing your products were, your inkies were on the portal, and you worked with the FDA or the Food and Drug Administration there. Once that was all cleared through, exporting to Korea, anywhere was just a matter of formality. There was never any issues. So Yes, we had initial problems with the EU, and we're now working around solutions to make that work. The rest of the world has never been a problem. The rest of the world has always been the same, and will continue to do so, and probably get better once these free trade agreements begin to bed in.
Looking at performance figures in certain countries, although we have the same sort of costs as Germany, France, Italy, in many areas of the world we underperform. And when I go to these countries and I ask them, well, why aren't you buying more British products? And they say to me, well, people don't come and show me the British products. Nobody comes to visit me. Nobody tries to come and sell to me. So, Lucy, can I ask you, what is the reason why British exporters don't look a little bit more widely than just Europe?
Well, I mean, I think there is always a lot of interest in those big markets. A lot of people are looking at the States. A lot of people are looking at China. China is a very complex market. But, I mean, there are opportunities worldwide. So my background is high street retail in emerging markets. And sometimes some of these complex markets, from Iran to Armenia, might sound very scary. But actually, the opportunities can be so much more rewarding if you just take that leap. So I would urge everyone to contact their local trade advisor, like myself. We've all got backgrounds in industry. We've all spent 20 plus years working, in my case, in retail. And we're here to help you for free to access international markets and to spend time looking at your business and looking at how you access funding and reaching out and basically getting in touch with the European hub, and there are 8 other hubs. So we've got North America, we've got LATAC, we've got Africa, we've got Asia Pacific. So you name it, there's a hub out there ready to help you find distributors, find stockists, do some market research. We can also act as consultants. So think of us as free retail consultants that can be part of your business, helping you. And I always say that to my brands, just think of me as an extra person in your business that's working for free, which is amazing. You'd normally have to pay a lot of money for retail consultants, such as, myself, hopefully. So, you've got an amazing opportunity to work with all that expertise, as well as my European colleagues.
Absolutely. And if I can just point out, that was a very good point as well, because we've actually had experience where we helped companies not just reach the European market, but we've had actually inquiries where we've helped them reach Brazil, Latin America, Middle East. So we've actually been in contact with the other hubs that you mentioned as well. So not just Europe, we can, if there's any inquiries about Asia, Middle East, we've also helped there as well. Not an issue.
So the excuse of I don't have enough knowledge about that market, there be dragons or whatever it is, crossing the world, isn't really valid, because we've got the DIT offices in those areas that can help. I personally happen to be a Latin American expert, and I would love people to export more to Latin America. A lot of people don't go to Latin America because I can't speak Spanish, I can't speak Portuguese, therefore I won't even try. It looks hard. It's actually not that hard when you get across there. Okay, so we've looked at various things about the Euro Hub exporting to the rest of the world. I mean, the world is a very big place, let's say. So I want to ask a couple of questions on it. So, Lucy, there's a service which we've got called the Export Support Service. Can you just tell us how that works? What it exactly is?
Well, to be honest, that's really what my European colleagues were talking about for Europe. But as mentioned, there's another 8 hubs. So there's another export support services across the world. And you work with your trade advisor, you work with Vincenzo, myself, and we would work out what your target markets are and what your brand proposition is in terms of that's going to get the most mileage out of which market, work with you, and then it's one-to-many. So we would then contact the hub on your behalf, or you could contact them directly, and they would basically work with you to say, right, what is it that you need? Do you need market research? Do you need stockists? The support is absolutely free. If you want more detailed support, if you want actual introductions, there is also a paid-for service as well, but you get a huge amount of support for free I've seen brands get lists of distributors. I'm working with a brand that's just got a massive deal in Korea, so they were looking for other distributors in Europe. And they were then connected up with the European hub, who were incredibly helpful, and gave them list of distributors in France. And absolutely, you can do your own research, but if it's there and it's free, why not access it?
Mm-hmm. You did mention that there's some things that have to be paid for, which is, I believe, the OMIS service. Can you just mention a bit about that?
Yes, so there is a paid-for service where you can actually get warmed-up connections, where you can actually get introductions directly to distributors and buyers. But if you don't want to go that far and actually pay for that service, there's so much information you get before that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Just for example, we had an inquiry, I think a few weeks ago, and it was very specific. It was actually retail. They were doing, they have a vegan leather shoe brand, and they wanted very specific, very niche information, market overview, and clients in the German market. And our amazing colleagues in Germany really made this fabulous report for them, which was very detailed, statistics, data, potential clients, competitors. So it's very specific, and it was free. It was just, here you go. So it's very, very nice to have this.
Great. There is also the Export Academy, which gives an SME some training, initially in exporting. Vincenzo, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Right, okay. The Export Academy is there for SMEs. If you're new to exporting, you're deciding to export, but you really don't know how to approach it. What the Export Academy does, it guides businesses on how to sell internationally through education and support, and it's an upskilling. It's a series of courses that you go through, and by the end of it, you should be confident enough to go out and start your initial steps into the exporting journey. Once you've progressed from the Export Academy, then you're then introduced to an ITA and then open to all the other services that are available to you via the DIT. But it is important, and it's free as well. It's something you should take advantage of if you're new or you're considering exporting. It's a very good service that we offer.
Great. We also heard the slogan recently that a marketing campaign from DIT, made in the UK, sold to the world, right? Great strapline, means a lot to us, but what does it actually do? What does it really mean to us, to businesses? Vincenzo.
Yeah. Okay. So what the sold to the world, made in the UK, sold to the world, it's about, it's championing UK businesses and prioritising key sectors within manufacturing and FMCG. And it's a localised marketing campaign that will promote the best of British goods and services across the globe through the posts that we have internationally.
And that dreaded phrase, rules of origin, that sort of covers within this area what's actually made in the UK. It doesn't have to be 100% made in the UK. It can use components from various other places. There's quite complex rules that are negotiated within trade agreements that cover those. But your local ITA can explain those to you and explain how to get around them or how to use those for your products. Okay, now, Lucy, there's a lot of other services that are covered by DIT that we haven't even covered here. Trade Mission Programme. What is the Trade Mission Programme?
Trade Mission Programme, well, there are a number of events that DIT either sponsor directly from the hubs, and Erica mentioned an event earlier, or there might be trade shows where a delegation is taken out. We've got the Middle East beauty show coming up, and we've also got Cosmoprov beauty in March next year, where we'll take a delegation of British brands out because basically there's strength in numbers. So there's a whole raft of events and missions that are taking place which involve either the central headquarters in London or our different hubs around the world, which
Yep.
British brands can get involved in. If you're working with an ITA, you should be signed up to get regular emails, and that will give you access to all of these events, or you can visit our website, which is great.gov.uk, I believe, and all the events are listed there, and you can see what's going on.
Yeah, if I may, we actually have an event next week in Prague, and we're representing 32 UK companies at the British Embassy in Prague. So it's going to be held in a very nice garden up top, and we'll have buyers there, introduction to different distributors, and it's just really kind of like a nice showcase of different brands. So our colleagues are really great at organizing this, and also they're going to go to Westfield Chodov, which is the largest shopping center in Prague, and kind of do a little tour around there as well. So it's a really cool event that's taking place, 15th to 16th, I think it is.
I should say, actually, Neill, a lot of the places on these events are either subsidised or there's some kind of discount, which makes it very attractive for British brands to come along and attend.
Yeah, and our trade mission program isn't just purely run by DIT. A lot of it is actually in conjunction with various trade associations, so they're sector specific. Some of them are very generalized, some of them are sector specific. So we'll be working with the relevant trade association to make sure we reach the right people that need that help and that resource. Now, there's been quite a few changes actually talking about trade shows abroad to be able to exhibit at an overseas trade show. There used to be a lot of financial help which has been reorganized now and the funding redirected in different ways. Vincenzo, can you tell me about what the latest version of trade show support is?
The latest version of trade shows is bigger is better. The TAP scheme beforehand was open to all trade fairs, whereas what we found is that it's better to fund and target specific trade fairs such as Cosmoprof, the bigger trade fairs where you stand a better opportunity of meeting more international clients rather than small trade fairs where you probably get some interest, but not the interest that you would get from a larger trade fair. So it's been decided that we invest in the larger trade fairs to give you the best of opportunities to meet more international businesses who would be interested in your products.
Now, if I want to go internationally, there's obviously various stages I want to go through to decide which markets I'm going to head to first of all. You can just approach us as far as the Euro Trade Hub is concerned. But we also, I should mention that there's a lot of webinars that we now run. I mean, webinars, thank God for Teams, for all the various visual effects which have come out during the last couple of years during COVID. It's enabled a lot of people that wouldn't necessarily take that first step to get information about it quite quickly and easily. We have a very big webinar program for the various different markets that you want to. We have information sources available on those. Sector-specific support, is there any additional sector-specific support that we have over and above the trade show program? Lucy.
The Internationalisation Fund. So if any of you that are companies that have not applied for your grant yet, your international grant, please can I strongly urge you to go ahead and do that. So this is match funding. It's open until the end of March. And if you submit costs of up to £18,000 to get £9,000 back from the government. So if you're already carrying out activity to internationalise your brand, website development, trade shows, international travel, working with influencers, marketing, you might as well put those costs in and get £9,000 back. It's a no-brainer. The money has run out in certain areas. So unfortunately, London has run out. But if you have a postcode outside London, please do contact your trade advisor so that you can apply for this grant. Because the money is there and you might as well use it. And it's helped hundreds of small companies.
Okay, there's the other thing that I mentioned about helping finance exports as well. We have the UK Export Finance Scheme. I'm going to throw that to Vincenzo. Can you explain a little bit about how that works?
Right, okay. The UK Export Finance is there to help businesses take the risk out of potential orders. If you've got a big order and you're having to finance this, rather than go to the banks and pay a lot more for it, the Export UK Finance is there to find ways of helping you fund your excuse me, your orders to export, so that there's minimum risk to you, to help you not lose an export order. And that's what UK, and if you need that kind of help and support, the best thing to do is to contact your ITA or your international trade advisor, and they will introduce you to UK Export Finance, and they will go through how they can help you not lose that particular order. It's all about not losing an order. We want you to go out and export with and win those orders without the fear of losing them and losing your own money.
I think a little area as well that we've skipped over a little bit here is e-commerce. Now, e-commerce has grown in importance over the last few years. Since COVID, it's now a very large percentage of business overseas. So when you want to sell overseas, you don't necessarily have to have a distributor at early stages. You can be selling individual products. DIT, we haven't got it on the panel here today, but we do have some specialist e-commerce advisors within the teams, several of them regionally based, and there's a couple of people within our head office as well, specialised in this area. So e-commerce obviously is quite complex rules, the way you can get things in, what values of merchandise can go in to other countries. We have a service that gets you onto marketplaces globally. Now, I can't remember how many. I'm just having a look, see if there's any one of my colleagues from that particular sector. Going to ask Judith in the audience there. Judith, how many e-commerce platforms do we currently work with? 52. Okay, so 52 e-commerce marketplaces globally that we have relationships with, and we can advise you how to get onto those platforms, how expensive it is, what the routine is that you have to get on there. And I tell you, traveling around the world, an awful lot of people come to me and they say, we want more British brands. You know, this isn't just the big corporates they want on there. They want more British brands on these. We run webinars to try and help that. So the introduction stage of it. Now, I'm not saying all of you could get on Tmall in China because that's very expensive. But there are 100 other marketplaces, platforms around the world which are more affordable, let's say, to be able to get onto and that you can work with. Now, at this stage, what I want to do is throw the questions out to the audience. See, is there anything specific that you'd like to know about DIT, about the services, about what we do? Now, has anybody got any questions they'd like to ask? Hands up. Well, in that case, I hope we've explained things reasonably well to it. To explain the situation. What else? The Great campaign. Now, we had, up until recently, a lot of posters. You've almost certainly seen them. You come into any airport anywhere and you see the Great Britain signs. Great Britain and Northern Ireland saying, you know, heritage is great, fashion is great. So I'm going to throw that again to the team here. Where does the Great campaign fit in now? We've got Made in UK, sold to the world. Does that replace Great, or is it alongside Great? I'm going to ask you then first of all, Lucy.
So the Great campaign works alongside, I think the Great campaign really works alongside all of us. So from my perspective, if we've got a really fantastic story, I'll put a case study forward. If I've been working with a brand and we've done something really extraordinary or they've delivered an amazing export deal, we can put a case study forward to the marketing team for them to be featured on the Great campaign. But really, we're always looking for examples. We're always working closely with the Great campaign to find case studies and to learn from the amazing examples that we've got. And it really underpins everything we do in terms of promoting registered UK companies, products that are made in the UK, and companies that are also importing goods made outside and then exported. So really it sort of underpins everything we do.
Okay, and it's been a great campaign, literally, for a long time. I mean, the great was actually invented when we did the Olympics in the UK. I think Mr. Cameron was the Prime Minister at the time, and he said, we ran a series of promotions during the Olympics. The most successful Olympics, it can be arguably said, that there's ever been. The only one that has been literally sold out every single ticket for the entire thing and has actually made a big profit. Most countries lose a lot of money during the Olympics. So Mr. Cameron came to us at the end of that and he said, this has been a fantastic campaign, I'd like to run that on. And it's still running overseas today. And it's still a very good promotion of what we can do, what we as a country can do. Now, looking outside of the box nowadays, what can we do which is different, which is away from what we normally do in order to help build confidence in UK products in overseas markets? Now, I'm going to throw this to my European colleagues.
I actually like this question. Thank you very much. I don't think we need to rebuild any confidence in British products, and actually, I would take it as an opportunity because I think that since Brexit happened, we can see that British products are much more exclusive for us, and I would use that as an opportunity for you guys because it's a great brand made in the UK, sold to the world, and British products historically sold very well to Europe, and we remained your largest export partner. So over 40% of exports from UK go to Europe still. So please bear that in mind when deciding about the right markets to export to.
Mm-hmm. And just as an example as well, and just a local example from Prague, where we are based, Mark and Spencer products. Mark and Spencer opened up, I think, a few years ago in Prague, and it's just boomed. It's really because the purchasing power in Czech Republic generally has increased, of course, over the past 5 years, but just the very fact that Mark and Spencer has opened up in various locations, and people are willing to pay a little bit of a higher price for UK products, for cheddar cheese, for example, or desserts. And even from my friends personally, they will spend a little bit more just knowing that it's a UK product and knowing it's high quality, it's good standard, it's the brand, it's Mark and Spencer. That is just it's become very popular. So that kind of just shows that we can think outside of the box, but also knowing the legacy of what UK products still give in Europe today and before. So still there.
and from a point of view of Holland?
Yeah, so I'll come in on behalf of Western Europe. I think things are a little bit different than the rest of Europe here. The British brand is a really strong product, but for Western Europe, the focus really is on quality and kind of communicating that the quality of your product, why your product is different, why it's niche, why it's good, is kind of essential to do well in our markets, Western Europe kind of markets. And they are doing well as long as you know how to fit yourself into the market. And that's why when you come to us as the IT, we kind of tell you, do this instead of doing this, what you do in the UK. For example, I had one company and they had a product, and it was a really cool product. It was like with ashwagandha and all of these different supplements, but they marketed themselves as a coffee. Now, if you market yourself as coffee, it has to taste like coffee in the Netherlands because they're big coffee drinkers there and they like it strong and bitter. And people buy it and they expect coffee and they think, this isn't coffee, I don't want this product. But when they went back to the drawing table and kind of did a bit of a rebranding and introduced it as a supplement, it's done really well on the market. And they started selling in these kind of like health stores and that kind of thing. So it's really, you have to focus in on the market and say, this product is quality. Trust us, it does exactly what we say it does, and you have to say exactly what I say it does. Yeah.
And also the local information on or local guidance on how something is sold, how something is marketed.
Yeah.
With it, which doesn't necessarily work exactly the same as it does in the UK.
Yeah, exactly. There is a focus on, can I get the value for my money when they buy a product? I mean, that's the same everywhere, honestly. But you really have to do a little bit of a pivot sometimes for these markets because they think differently and there's saturation a bit in some of the retail fields. So you have to kind of pivot a bit and say, okay, how can I make my product unique and how can I be successful?
With very much an emphasis on value rather than on price.
Yes, value, because the good thing about our markets is that I find, I'll speak for the Dutch. The Dutch are really interested in innovative products. They take risks. So if your product sounds really good and it sounds really different, they'll give it a try. But you have to tell them, you know, and they'll spend the money on it. If it does exactly what it says, they'll come back.
There's also the marketing principle. One of the oldest stories that I was taught in business school many years ago they used the example then of toothpaste. Okay, now toothpaste in the UK, Germany, Northern Europe. Why do we use toothpaste? Because it keeps our gums healthy, our teeth healthy. It's going to make them last well into our old age. But you go to Southern Europe, you go to Spain, Italy, Greece, and it's actually a cosmetic then. It's to make your teeth look nice and gleamy and white so you're going to look much better, not sold as a health product. So the way you sell your product overseas makes a huge amount of difference. And our local advisors here can help you in those directions. Now, I'm going to ask then, if there's no questions from the audience, I'm going to ask each of our panel members in turn a hot tip for the future. What should we do to improve our exports?
You're asking me?
Starting with you, Vincenzo.
Yeah, research. Always do your research. Find out what your market is. Find out who your competitors are. Find out where your brand sits within that market. I've seen so many times manufacturers and MSEs come to me and saying, I just can't work with distributors because we can't agree on the right price. And the reason they can't agree on the right price is that you're undervaluing your product. You've not gone and done your research and found out where your product actually sits in that marketplace. Had an example of working with a candle manufacturer in the UK, and they just couldn't find a distributor because they couldn't agree on price. So we did a sliding price scale, one for the UK and one for Sweden, the market was. And if you don't know what sliding price scale is, you look at all the products within your market, within a price frame, and you place where your product is and where your competitors sit on the scale. You then do the same for your international market. And when we did the same for their international market, we found that their product was being sold at the lower price point with the economy brands, and they needed to lift their price up. So by studying that, you can, one, get a better margin for your product. You can overcome awkward arguments and discussions with your distributor just by doing simple research. And it will pay dividends, but it will also pay dividends when you come to negotiate as well, and to justify where you are and what you want for your product.
And as we said, value of your product, far more important than price.
Absolutely.
Never try to be the cheapest guy in the market. Always try to be the best in the market. From a European point.
From me, it would be have a strong, unique selling point. Have a strong USP. So when you're doing your pitch, mention something innovative, or maybe you have some sustainability part, or maybe your product is made in the UK. These are all things that you can definitely show off your brand with.
So to know your USP.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I totally agree with my colleagues. I would just add is also just really open your horizons, expand, don't think small, think big. And what we always do is, if we have an inquiry or a business interested in one market, we say, why not these markets? And, like knowing your competitors, knowing your brand, knowing what you specialize in, and really expanding upon that and using us, really using what you have at your own resources, at your hands. So I would do first stepping stone, definitely.
So covering the points that you haven't thought of in the first place. That
yes.
Somebody else's advice, somebody else's guidance, somebody that's done it before. In the case of our overseas offices, probably many times before. Yes. That little bit of information, that little bit of knowledge and understanding can be a great help to you. Lucy, what do you think?
Well, definitely contact your trade advisor. That's my number one tip. And also be prepared to go off-piste. Don't just go to the markets where everybody else is, where all your competitors are. Why not try somewhere completely different? And you might be surprised and be incredibly successful. Think about Guinness in Nigeria, and there are many, many more examples. So, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, you mean go to somewhere like Finland where nobody else goes because you've got to be the only person in the market there that's selling your particular product.
First mover advantage.
Yeah.
Okay, Erica.
Well, my tip will be to be flexible, and I think that kind of builds on the point of being open-minded, because you don't think of all the points when you come into a new market, and us as local advisors will be able to say, well, actually, have you thought of this, or would you like to participate in this kind of event, or I had an architectural studio work with a fashion company in the Netherlands once, and they never thought that that was a collaboration that they would work with. So, just be flexible, be willing to pivot. You have your product, it can go places if you're flexible and ready to move it forward.
Okay, I think that's fairly much sums it up. The finishing off lines that I would like to sort of say is that with DIT, and by working with DIT, you've effectively now got 177 offices worldwide. You've got access to at least 108 countries in the world, which covers virtually all of the major consumer markets that we've got. The simple way of doing that is talk to your local ITA. I can't remember how many ITAs we've now got in across the country, but it's a lot. Wherever you are, if you go into our website, you look up your ITAs, you'll get a number where you can find who your local ITA is, or be allocated one who will come and talk to you, chat to you about your business, about what you want to achieve out of your business, how you want to grow it internationally, and that's a starting point. Then we start bringing in the other services that DIT can offer. Right, well, thank you very much, everybody. Very much appreciated, and hope we've given you a few things to think about.